Thank you, Robert. Okay, so let's see where the markets are going here. This is the CAG I was asked about in the green room today as a possible short. Those of you on YouTube that are watching, just a short explanation here is it's in a downtrend. It's up at resistance. I like it here. Would have liked to have been stalking it up in this area here to get in before the drop, but this is a continuation pattern, which actually did trigger yesterday and then went nowhere. Pretty much the market went nowhere. But if it was to trade under these lows, it's got some room to drop there. But the weekly is trying, looks like it's trying to put in a low here for a while. And the spring is getting wound here where the lows are getting higher. And this isn't a higher low, but if you look at the above the tail there, it's just even and trading inside here. So for a day trade, not a problem. You can almost trade anything that the hourly trend is starting to roll over and it's got room to fall, but not so loving it so much as a swing trade. Anyway, let's get to the markets, which were up earlier. The Dow is still up here, but things are coming in. The Qs, which are up even more, are now down a bit. And excuse me. Wow. One of the things that I mentioned yesterday in the room was that, look, the markets are up here. They're in an uptrend. But just looking at, the typical kind of trends and what is going on, right, with this one isn't how it's moving. It would just be a normal event for things to stall here. Because within an uptrend, prices reach a point where buyers say, you know what? I'm not so feeling aggressive here as far as buying 4 days up or 5 days up, especially here. This is at this big number, 8,000. Just be okay if I could get in on a pullback and a small pullback, maybe to minor support. And maybe that's what is going to happen here. It certainly looks like, pre-market anyway, how things have stalled. You can see the hourly chart starting to roll over here and the tails up at the top. Just notice this one right there where it poked above the highs at a little breakout kind of a pattern right into 8,000 and got slapped right back down again. So maybe a little pullback here is in order. It would not change the trend, of course. We just monitor how far it pulls back. And now, one of the things I had mentioned yesterday was that, look, if yesterday, possibly if it was a reversal day or the beginnings of a reversal day, which today may be, they tend to be erratic and choppy. So why we could possibly have what I refer to as a frog in a blender day is that within an uptrend, the turn day prior to a pullback, once the pullback is established, where you actually get a red bar and the hourly rolls over, for day trades, it's a smoother ride, so to speak, on the short side if you're trading it intraday. From the swing trading perspective, we're just waiting for prices to reach a reference point, whether it's this blue line of minor support or whether it gets down to the 20 MA or wherever it is. We just focus on candle bar by bar to see how it pulls back. And then if it can reverse back up again and then continue to move above the old high, step by step, just following the trend. So maybe we're in for a choppy kind of day, frog in the blender day. As far as the market goes, we could always, find individual stocks, but the market moves the majority of the higher volume stocks unless they're on their own page, just based on some news. And one of the things, the financials, which were looking pretty darn good at the end of last week, are now in question. Some of them were down. I see Bank America is actually up here. Wells Fargo, which has been kind of a laggard amongst the group, came in and it's just whipping back and forth. And now Goldman Sachs is up. It's this crazy move yesterday where prices came whipping back down and went back up again. So I call this market Mr. Schizophrenic. Has just had those kind of moves, but it's really a disappointment when you have something that is looking decent and it just has one of these whipsaw kind of moves like that, and then comes right back again. So, as we say, it is what it is, but some uncertainty going on there, and we'll see how it all shapes up. Let's go into the futures, the ES here, just a narrow range day, trading inside of yesterday's range for now. And, you look at the weekly chart, wide range bar up, it's moving up, momentum stalls, greater than 100% retracement. Just makes sense for things to stall here. They may go sideways. We'll see. A lot of earnings coming out. But right at the moment, just the way things are set up here, I think, the bias is to sit on the hands unless something is really compelling. I mean, that's always the case, but it's going to be more difficult to find things, with this kind of arrangement of bars within the trend like that. And, those of us that are sitting in front of a screen, there is a tendency to get a little itchy, bored, and maybe start pressing some buttons on things that we shouldn't. So just keep that in mind and keep the discipline and the patience, and things will eventually set up to where we have high probability opportunities. So there's a bunch of stuff moving here. Dan will take a look at them. Google, which we were looking at last night, is a great opportunity here for a continuation pattern. There's some news that came out. I didn't listen to the whole thing, but, it gapped down and it's just flipping back and forth there. So, sometimes these things that we see the night before that we go on interest lists can kind of go in the garbage pail the next day, depending on, news and gaps and so on. So we'll see if that recovers. There's more red than green here today. And as I said, the Qs were up and now they're down. So, same story, kind of choppy stuff going on. And here's the NASDAQ futures, little topping tail, they backing off of the 8,000. We'll see how that goes. YM, same story. And this is the beginning of, possibly the beginning, we shall see, of, we looked at, I'm going to have to get some water in a minute, I think, here. Was it this one? Or was the ES? This was the Qs. That little topping tail right there. Well, not really a topping tail by textbook definition, but anyway, it poked above the highs and came in. And what we have here in the Dow, which would be the same picture, so to speak, in that it went up and it would come back down if it does come here. So if it goes under this 27,325, give or take, that's going to be a breakout failure, creates uncertainty. And from an intraday trading point of view, right, nothing to do with the daily trend here because that's still up and strong, but this could be the start of a pullback. So a breakout failure catches longs, creates uncertainty, and just put yourself in the bar. If you bought this, what are you going to do if it trades under here? So that gives us a setup as an intraday trader to consider shorting. And at that point, we could even go down to a smaller time frame like the 5-minute and trade a setup from there with the bias from provided by the breakout failure and where prices are on the daily to suggest just a normal kind of a pullback. So intraday traders can trade against the daily trend at the appropriate time with a plan. So we'll see if that sets up. So I'll be setting alert onto here, and I'll see if that triggers. Oil just consolidating here, flipping around. We talked yesterday about how it came back from this red bar down and came up above the high, and so far it's just, it's consolidating at the upper part of that green bar there. So that still looks good. Some sellers came in for whatever reason, and it's just kind of chopping around there. So nothing to do. If you were long, you just sit on your hands and wait to see if it recovers. You get a red bar ignored or whatever. Right? So right now it's just consolidating this move up, and so far looks okay. Bonds are down here a bit, decent amount actually. Down to major support, try to hold, and so far it's not. whip right back down again. And so we'll see if buyers want to give it another shot here at this level, whether this kind of gives us, we got a frog in a blender pattern. Well, we've got what I'd refer to as a Christmas tree pattern too, meaning, green, red, green, red. I don't know that that's going to happen, but, while it's down here at this support level, it's best to let others kind of figure that out by testing this level and seeing if it breaks down through, which would then open the door into this void below and maybe a significant move to the downside. So right now we'll just see if it can hold these lows. And so even if you don't trade this market, what I'm explaining here as far as the interpretation of the price action is applicable to anything. And so, when you trade IBM or Apple, NVIDIA, gold stock, all these technical concepts are the same regardless of what you trade. Now, looking at where this is in relation to what's to the left here from about a year ago, it makes sense that it has stalled here and pulled back, but it hasn't reversed the trend here on the weekly time frame, but it certainly might happen, but it's got a ways to go. So here's our, factory work, our minor support down there, and our major support down here. And the further it retraces to this major support level, the more it puts the trend in question. So it's at resistance. What does it do there? Well, it could chop around and go sideways, which is what it's doing. It could fall like a rock, which it's not doing, but we know it's stalled here. The daily time frame is rolling over. It's caught here at major support and the rising 50 for the moment. So it's a situation where it's is best to just stay away from it. So again, whatever you might be trading, it doesn't matter whether it's bond futures or Apple computer. A picture like this is best to just stand clear of for a little while until you get more information. Gold, we're waiting here to see if this can break out. It's consolidating the gains, and you can see that it's winding the spring. Right? So we got the frog in the blender, we got the Christmas tree, and here we got the winding of a spring where the lows are getting lower and the highs are getting higher, and it's getting tighter, as you can see here, which is suggestive of it's getting close to a break one way or the other. So you got to be a little careful here that sometimes you get fake moves initially, but the bias based on the weekly clearing these highs, and again, we've covered the fact that the breakout from a longer term perspective is bullish, and we've got a 1, 2, 3 continuation pattern. That monthly bar is not over yet, but it's consolidating bullishly right where it needs to be. So it looks bullish. It's just chopping around here, consolidating gains, and we'll see where it's going to go. The Russell, which was kind of expecting this to kind of bring up the rear since the market has been trading bullishly. It tried yesterday and failed miserably. So it's still within this range here. It hasn't failed, but it's just chopping back and forth. So set an alert. We'll see, if it like to see it hold this low. I'd actually like to see it hold well above it, like right around this area. And, if it can get through here, it's definitely a long at this point. And, the micro futures, you can see they're just doing nothing here. So markets are just kind of waiting here. The message is universal today, that, avoid being the frog in the blender today, because there's nothing decisive going on as far as the markets go at this moment in time. Now, the transports had a great day on Friday. Yesterday was a resting day overall. This is the monthly. Let's go to the weekly. It looks like it can go higher if it can clear these highs. And that would be a plus for the market. So the thing to do here is just set an alert on the transports and just see if they start going higher. And if your alarm goes off, well, the markets may not be doing nothing, but that could be a heads up. Transports are starting to move here. The Dow that we looked at had that breakout failure on the 60-minute. Maybe that didn't fail. So you start accumulating information, and this is from an intraday trader point of view that says, hey, I'm coming into the market today with this bias of avoiding getting chopped up, but I don't want to get stuck in that bias. It may just play out that way, but if some information comes about, like the transport starting to break out, and it could be other things like maybe the semiconductors start to continue, they move higher, they've been leading, or maybe some of these financials like, JP Morgan here, it looked great last week. I know it's near this prior high, but it's whipped back and forth. And look at the price action here, pre-market, just crazy stuff. So you look for pieces of information that can move you into the moment, so to speak. All right. So just reiterating, we don't want to be the frog in the blender today, but I don't want to get stuck in the past either. And if things should start to move one way or the other, where, that tells me, hey, that bias, that was great before, but right now things are changing. So pay attention to this new information. So we'll see how that all plays out here today. Right now, I'm ready to sit on my hands a little bit and see how things progress at the open, and look at some of these things which Dan will cover as to what's moving here and what might present opportunities and what our open positions are doing here. What do we have? Dan calls, what do you call them, Dan? Problem childs?
Greg, you have a question on Workday. And Steve, do me a favor and put your drop down to all panelists and attendees.
What a grinder on the weekly. I wouldn't do anything with it here. I mean, it's down a little bit, kind of meaningless. I'd be waiting. It's in a sloppy kind of uptrend, a whippy uptrend. I'd be waiting for it to show signs of a turnaround, since it's an uptrend on 2 time frames here. And while we've got the 20 and the 50 kind of not as smooth on the 20, look at the kind of jiggly movement of the 20, which gives you a insight as to, this kind of price action. It's in an uptrend, but it's a wild thing. It's tightened up, Steve. Meaning, look at the big moves here, and now look at how it's kind of changed its personality a little bit right here. It's gotten tighter and moved up, and it's coming down to, that minor support point there. So we'll see if it can hold this area. I would just put it on a watch list and nothing to do with it at the moment. I would just wait to see if it can turn around here. And I don't know if there's any resistance to the left. No, it's new all-time highs. So it looks good. Under that prior week's low, that's going to be a breakout failure. So keep that in mind. As good as, well, I hate these, what I call self-correcting uptrends that are just grinders like that. Yes, they're fine if you're long from lower levels, because there's nothing to do but sit on it. But down below that last week's low, breakout failure. So, but right now I would just watch it. It's a watch. So there you go.
All righty. Good morning. Let's review opens as always. Do it fairly quickly here so we can get to the gappers. Echo Alpha on probation, but it's held our stop here. Put spread for Friday. EWZ put spread is in both letters, expires Friday. Win put spread yesterday. Facebook put spread yesterday. And I also said this is a directional now. Over the high of these 2 bars, that's a 1, 2, 3. Bullish weekly, monthly. We have Ulta put spread yesterday, and Uber put spread. Now on the swing trader, turn my music down. Let's see, we have FCN. Looks good, it triggered. FDC, it was a breakout, long stock yesterday. LBS, long stock yesterday. Win, same put spread in both letters. Diamonds, we have a put spread. Looks good. It's in an uptrend, it's gapping up. Here's the kind of that little cup and handle pullback. Looks fine. I also noticed XLK here outperforming the Qs. See, I have a whole monitor of how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 28 sectors. And it's just so easy to look at this, and this thing's perking. XLK, so that's technology, is stronger than the Qs. See the difference on the 15? That's a great little example right there. NMRK, we're long stock. Knock, we legged into a covered call yesterday because it was not acting right. Whiskey, that's a core trade for us on this gap breakout day. Bullish weekly, monthly. Akamai, we're long stock. Fizzler, covered call. CMG, put spread. Looks great. Cody, long stock. We have big inventory here. Run, that's a little bull flag consolidation. It's in the solar space, core trade. Whiskey Papa, we're in trail mode. All right, so yeah, we have 0 problem children today. And that's what we like. Boil here is natural gas, gapping down 14 bucks. McGraw, your cyber from yesterday, look at this 15-minute chart. That looks beautiful. So it's not a gap trade, it's just a nice setup with a nice 15-minute, powered up, came in, now making a higher low. So this will be like an ideal 10, 15-minute high trade, provided the market internals are holding on our side. Little dog apron here that kind of looked like it was going out of business, and it still might. And it's getting a nice, that's a nice gap trade. Let's put that in a window. APRN. So we just need an intraday setup. The coffee shop finally perked yesterday. This will be an ideal 1, 2, 3 setup, which means bullish inside day, and then we buy over the highs tomorrow. ARW, 65 bucks. That's a bearish gap. Start off with a day trade, target these prior lows, and as you know, put it in a window and see if we get an intraday compelling setup. What do we got here? This was earnings, big old bearish engulfing. There's no volume. It's a mess. Let me see, let me get rid of that. This was earnings, no volume, you're gone. PLD. That's a mess. I don't know what to do with that. This is a mess. Some of these were earnings. No, whoa, here's the island reversal. Look at that. There you go. That's a bear island reversal right there. So you can, as Greg says, you can drive a window through the gaps. WWD. Oh, this was yours, McGraw. Broke out yesterday, so see how it sets up intraday. Twilio, you mentioned. I like the higher low reversal right here. Uptrend, weekly, monthly. That's a watch. CCL, you asked me about. It's a double bottom. still in a downtrend on daily, weekly, monthly, but it's a, see if you can get a $45 put spread off. DPZ, I don't know if this is earnings or otherwise, I don't care. Wow, and you have to go out to a bigger time frame to see where it's gapping. That's a bearish gap. We'll see what that wants to do. Tesla, I had this as a put spread over Friday's high, but we didn't get filled even on that pullback. And now it's gapping down. If you did get filled, you'll still be profitable, because the only way you would have gotten filled is pretty darn near the low of the day. But I had a subscriber email me saying, nope, his order was there all day long and he didn't get filled. Goldman earnings, 215. That could get going. Target 220 to 230. That's going on my list. Oh, how did I miss? I miss Costco as being an open. We still have a third lot on this. All right, so Goldman, I'm going to put you in this window. J&J had earnings. Oh, it's a mess. You know, I read something in the journal today about somebody going after them for the opioid crisis, like they've been putting out of business a lot of other firms. And I wonder if that's what caused this shellacking day. The news of possible exposure to opioid. All right, look at cyber here. See that? I don't chase in the first couple minutes, particularly with the market indexes falling right now. So let's give this one 5-10 minutes. Twilio is acting well, but again, I'm not chasing it, but that's a bullish pattern. JB Hunt, gap's too big. WFC is a mess. I got no interest in him. JPM earnings stopped us out yesterday, break even. MA, beautiful entry right here. Then you had a gap, little breakout to all-time highs, but I'm not chasing. MPW, it's a bearish gap, but excessive. BPTH bullish gap, but it looks like a penny stock toy. And now we're into yesterday's trades, Dropbox, Mitch. Oh, look at Goldman here on my bottom right window, selling off. Yeah, I like Marriott. I love the bear sandwich on the monthly. Yeah, I'm just doing nothing here with all the internals failing, but yeah, definitely Marriott's on the long list. So I'll put you in this window here on the bottom right. Our Echo Alpha is not acting right. Just take the posted stop. And we aren't down that much at all, like less than 30 cents. All right, I like this little apron. You know, bottoming pattern, you got a nice pre-market. You know, you could nibble here, stop pre-market low, which would be under 784. ILMN. Hey, Steve, do me a favor on your drop down. Just change it to all panelists and attendees so everybody can see what's shaking and asking. It's a, you know, that's a nasty gap. So don't, you know, pattern doesn't suggest a huge move, but it's a day trade opportunity. You know, but these are buyers. This could have been a continuation lower, but now buyers are stepping up and breaking out of this